The Women's Leadership Institute in the Auburn University College of Liberal Arts is pleased to present Leaders Educating Through Discussion. We hope you will take a moment after you watch our presentation to add your own voice to the dialogue on our website, auburn.edu/womensleadership.
First of all, I want to ask you, what is the PSC? Some of you might not know. The Public Service Commission. Now, some of you aren't from Alabama, but in Alabama, there are 3 people on the Public Service Commission, and they are all elected statewide. So in some states they are elected, some appointed, some by districts, and various ways to get to the Public Service Commission. But in ours, in Alabama, we have 3 members. We are all elected statewide. Now, let me tell you something about the Alabama Public Service Commission. It is the first, one, and only ever commission in the history of the United States of America to be all women. So that makes us really unique in that regard. The Public Service Commission regulates utilities, the cost of your utilities. You buy from Alabama Power, Alabama Gas, some telephone, trucking, railroad track safety, moving vans, taxis, limos, and wastewater and private water. So those are some of the things that we do. It's a different story every day, wonderful opportunity. I think there's 2 approaches to being involved in politics. And this falls right in line with what Kay said, and that is, I prefer to consider it as public service. But I think the 2 approaches are, one, for the love of politics, are holding political office. Some people run to be a political office holder. They love politics. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. I know some very good people who have done that. There is only one other thing. When you get elected and you are a politician or a political office holder, you have to serve. And I believe that the best approach is that you run for a cause. You run because you believe in something. You get involved with the city council because you wanted to do something for your city. You want to help with children. Let's say you want to find a cure for cancer, but you're not the kind of person who would be a physician or a researcher. What about the policy of cancer research? What about being a politician and getting money to fund cancer research? So I believe in the love of the cause. And I believe that if you focus on the cause, it will better serve you because you'll be more interested in the work that you do than the next election. And if you are in office and you are only worried about the next election, then I believe you've missed the whole boat. Because that will not only drive you crazy, it will give you ulcers, it will drive you to drink, it will drive you to do something to relieve the stress, because you will be very stressed if that's all you're interested in. I want to tell you my story, how I came to be involved in this. I grew up in a little town, Eva, Alabama, population 365. There is a 4-way stop, but I did not even live in the city limits. I grew up on a farm. Neither of my parents graduated from high school. No one in my family had ever graduated from high school. So no one has certainly been to college. But my parents had a dream for me that I was going to college. I was really smart. And my daddy thought I was the smartest thing in the world. Judge Cobb and I would hold that in common. And he thought I was going to be a rocket scientist or something big. And so when I got engaged at 14, we had a problem. And we fought, and we fought. And I would run away from home, and he would lock me in, and I would sneak out, and it was bad. It was really bad. So finally, after a year or so of this, he said, I tell you what, he said, I am never going to let you get married. But I really realize that you're not going to listen to me, so you can get married when you graduate from high school. At least I'm going to get a child here. I'm going to get you through high school. So I skipped the 11th grade. I went to summer school. I took correspondence courses. I graduated from high school when I was 16 years old, and I said, Daddy, you said I could get married now. And he said, well, you cheated, and I lied. So there I was, 16, still couldn't get married. So I went to work at Calhoun Community College as a file clerk. I didn't ask how much it paid. I just knew it was air conditioned. And the cotton field I came out of was not air conditioned. I started working as a file clerk, and I went to night school. And I was a secretary, assistant dean, and associate, and then assistant vice president of Athens State University 25 years later. Worked my way up into night school for 13 years. I got involved in politics. Oh, by the way, I got married at 17. Daddy was right. That was a really, really, really dumb thing to do. I was divorced at 23, so. Okay, and then my husband, Paul, I've been married almost 30 years now, so. I've been very blessed to overcome a lot. And that's a good lesson for you to learn, is you're going to make mistakes. Boy, I made some whoppers. I'm telling you, I really made some whoppers. And that was one of them. And I almost didn't survive, but I did. I did survive it. My husband, Paul, ran for the legislature in 1981. We were married, and was elected in 82, served 16 years. He retired, I retired, we had a little camp in the woods. We moved our little camp. Someone called him and said, I think you ought to run for state auditor. We need somebody to run for this office, the statewide office. And Paul said, no, I'm retired, don't know any more about politics, but you ought to ask Susan. I think she'd be really good at that. And I was like, me? Politics? I never thought about it. So I ran for state auditor, I was elected. I got to be state auditor because I wanted to be in that political office, didn't I? When I got there, I didn't like the work. I didn't want to be state auditor anymore. It was boring. I'm not an accountant. I don't like accounting. I like people. So after only 2 years in office, and I got it, but I worked hard at it, and I got the best state auditor ever from all the newspapers across the state, because I got it done, I worked hard at it, and I said, okay, I'm going to do something else now. And then I started reading and looking about causes. And I decided I wanted to be in the United States Senate because there were a lot of causes that I believed in there. So I ran for the United States Senate. I thought I'd be the only Democratic nominee against Jeff Sessions. I was not. There were 3 of us. There was a runoff. It was nasty. It was a year and a half of the worst time of my life. But I made it. I survived that one too. And got knocked around a lot, and knocked down, and talked about, and all these dirty things you see on TV. They all said that about me. And some worse. But I survived it. I met a lot of wonderful people. I was the nominee. I lost to Senator Sessions. It didn't hurt that much. I survived. It's okay. You don't have to win to make a statement. I made a statement about the causes I believed in, and I was proud of the statements I was able to make. A couple of points then about, and then I forgot about that. Then I was back home working for Greater Birmingham Ministries, and somebody called me, and I wasn't ever going to be in politics again. As a matter of fact, my husband said, God will need to call if you're going to be in politics. Okay? And we agreed. We shook. Well, then this person calls, and I said, well, and Paul was out fishing. And I took the call, and this person was saying, this is the leader of the Democratic Party, which meant if he was for me, I had the Democratic nomination. I said, well, Paul, today, God called, and he's been talking to Jesus. And they decided I need to run for the Public Service Commission. I don't know what the Public Service Commission is. But I ran, and I read about the Public Service Commission. It sounded like a wonderful opportunity to serve, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, which is what I want to do in life. And I did, and I was elected. It's the best job I've ever had. It's wonderful, and I'm running for re-election. But a couple of things about conventional wisdom about women in politics. Women can't raise money. It is true that women have a more difficult time, in my experience, raising money than men. You know why? I think sometimes it's because we're not forceful enough. I've watched some of my male colleagues raising money for me call somebody up and say, Jim, now by golly, this Susan Parker, you're helping Susan, aren't you? Because she's going to do a good job. Yes, I'm helping. Well, have you given her $5,000? Are you kidding? $5,000? No, I gave her $50. That's good enough. Well, when Jim gave me that, I asked him for the money, I didn't demand $5,000. I said, can you help me, please? He gave me $50 and thought he helped me. So I didn't ask him for $500 or $5,000 or $1,000. We need to be more forceful. You're raising money, you've got to be forceful. You've got to say, I really need your help. I need you to make a commitment of $1,000 to my campaign. I sure hope you can do that. And then you wait. You wait. And you wait. You don't start saying, but if you can't give me $1,000, I'll take $500. You don't do that. You're forceful, and that's one of the goodies. Also, women give a lot of money to campaigns, and they are wonderful, but they are not accustomed to writing those checks for the large amounts that the men are. So we have to train ourselves to do better about that. Another piece of conventional wisdom that I've heard is that women don't support women. Well, I believe that is not true. I have received so much support from women to help me. Most of my support has come from women. Like I said, we have to train ourselves to up that ante just a little bit from $50 to $100 or whatever level we can do. But I have had wonderful support from women, and we must continue to support each other. I'm going to give you 2 examples from history on races. One of them, they're not necessarily about women, but just historical races. I want you to put in your brain if you're thinking about this. You know that old saying, he who has the gold rule You know, we know the golden rule, of course, but then there's that, you know, people who joke about the real golden rule is he who has the golden rules. So that the person who has the most money always wins in political contests. Well, that is not true. Hard work will trump money in a lot of cases. Not always. But when my husband Paul first ran, we didn't have any money. We were school teachers, essentially. He was a teacher, and I was at the college, and we didn't have any personal wealth. And so we were up against a lot of money. But we put on our walking shoes, and we started walking. And in many races, if it's a city council race or a small house seat, you can go just about to every door to door, in that truck like Judge Cobb did. You can do it with hard work. When I was running for the PSC, I spent $300,000. My opponent spent $800,000. And we won that race, 53 to 47%. And we did that because I stayed on the phone for a long time the first month, doing the conventional thing they tell you, get on the phone, call and ask for money. I was calling and calling and calling. One day, I looked at the disclosure reports, which are, by the way, due today. You turned yours in. Okay. We don't want to forget that. But I looked at his disclosure, and I raised like $20,000 in that period, and he raised $250,000. And I got up from my computer, and I went in, I was cleaning the toilet. And I thought, I'm just going to be relegated to cleaning the toilet my whole life. I'm never going to be reelected to anything. I'm never going to be anything else in my life except cleaning toilets right here through. And my husband came in, and he said, what are you doing? I was crying, you know, in the toilet bowl. And I said, I just can't raise any money. He said, well, all right, well, get off that dumb telephone, and let's go to work. And so he built a big thing and put on the back of our pickup truck that said Parker's Express. And we went all over the state to small towns, to small newspapers, to small radio stations. And we got our word out there with just with the tanks of gas and those signs in the back of that pickup truck. So there are cases that you can win. Now, when I ran against Jeff Sessions and he had $5 million and I had $500,000, that's a little different. You know, there's a limit there. But you never know, and that's the last thing I'll share with our race is you never know. There's one way you will not win a political race. What is the one surefire way you will lose? If you're not in it, if you don't run, you won't win. That is very, very simple. I'll tell you a story about a former governor of Alabama named Guy Hunt. You may have heard of him. You probably don't, unless it's in your history book. He was the governor back in the 80s. And I was related to Governor Hunt. My brother was married to his niece. And he'd run for governor numerous times. He was a Republican. And no Republican governor had been elected in Alabama since Reconstruction. So nobody even, that's true now, that's the truth. That's not just a joke. So nobody paid any attention to who the Republican nominee was. I remember when he came to the college campus where I was, the president, I was just a peon at that time, the president called me in and says, aren't you related to Guy Hunt? I said, yes, sir. He said, you show him around campus. We don't, you know, he's not going to win, and, you know, I don't need to be seen out, somebody like that. You show him around. So I showed Guy around campus. We had a great time. But then he was the Republican nominee because he was the only Republican running. And, of course, we had our Democratic nominee. Of course, he was supposed to win. And then, guess what? The Democrats got in this big, ugly, nasty battle. We declared that the guy who really got the most votes didn't win. That was this other guy. And it was all legal and all for good reason. But nobody in Alabama understood it. Nobody got it. And Guy Hunt was elected governor. And if he hadn't run, he wouldn't have won, would he? So there he was, and you know what? He was reelected governor as well. And ended up in some problems, but he was really a good guy. He went to, you know, he was convicted. But anyway, he's a nice person, very nice person. Viktor Frankl, you know who Viktor Frankl was? He was a guy, a writer. He was in a concentration camp. And when he came out, instead of writing these horrible, terrible things about his life, he wrote wonderful, life-giving, wonderful things about life. And he said, success, like happiness, cannot be achieved. Both occur, both success and happiness occur best when one pursues a cause you believe in. If you want to be successful in political, public service, you want to be happy in your life, you find a cause greater than yourself and dedicate yourself to it. Then you have a good chance of achieving both. Thank you.